All right, call the council meeting back into open session. There's nothing to report. Next up is number 5, it's mayor's report. In March of 2024, Ross residents will vote on critical matters such as the renewal of the Ross Public Safety Parcel Tax, electing 3 new town council members, and a new board of supervisor for the county of Marin. These decisions will significantly impact the future of Ross, so your participation in the voting process is crucial. The Marin Independent Journal recently highlighted the town's tradition of electing quality council members, which is correct, but is in large part owed to the dedication of our hardworking staff to public service. This legacy underscores the effectiveness of the town council in serving our community. Reflecting on my tenure these past 12 years, I recall a time when the council member on the far right of the dais was charged with picking up the phone and telling Ross residents who called in where we were on the agenda so residents could show up for the item they wanted to hear. That quaint practice went on for a few more years, but there was a lot of change and modernization that was also going on. Ross had merged fire operations with the Ross Valley Fire Department. The town council had just sworn in a new town manager, and the new town council was focused on fiscal responsibility and implementing changes to make sure we covered our costs and could project and cover expenses years out. As is typical in Ross, where the council serves as a planning commission, Ross planning consumed a lot of council time. After about a year on council, the council was criticized for being too lenient on planning projects and allowing too many variances to floor area, i.e. letting residents increase the size of their homes above what the zoning allowed. In fact, that was nothing new, and the council had historically allowed FAR increases or non-conforming expansions on a case-by-case basis, but a lot of dialogue on the subject ensued. The Ross zoning regulations were adopted after the community was built. Some neighborhoods were held to an acre or 5-acre standard, and others to a much smaller lot size. The size of homes was limited to corresponding square footage standards, notwithstanding that the vast majority of Ross homes, one towner planner estimated 90%, were already built and didn't comply with the standards. Likewise, we have setback standards that don't conform to what is built because they were adopted after the town was built. Recent discussions have arisen regarding potential amendments to allow floor area exceptions instead of variances. This proposed change aligns with the historical flexibility displayed by the council in evaluating planning projects on a case-by-case basis. The council can and should be trusted to make decisions that make sense and enhance the community. Other issues have consumed council time, including the Bolinas Ross Road safety and drainage improvements, discussion about bridges, including improvement and preservation, flood district plans, emergency plans, encroachments in the right-of-way and related parking impacts, amnesty to homeowners who improve basement and attic space, crossing guards, underground utilities, ordinance interpretations and amendments, bike transportation lane expansions, a playground concept that was never accepted, upgrades to the commons, including adding the lot where the town rental house stood, farmers market on the common, street and sidewalk safety, Ross recreation management, operation, and programming, continuous discussion about staff hiring, and particularly for the council hiring a new town manager, permit fees, labor negotiations for police and fire, litigation and threatened litigation, special events including the town dinner and 4th of July parade, and an inordinate amount of time was spent on short-term rentals and the dog park. Tonight's agenda is unusually light and would give the misimpression that the council has an easy lift. The fact is that the council can and does go from a part-time job to a nearly full-time job with no warning. In instances of local controversy, the council faces the challenges of discerning when the majority opinion does not align with the greater community good. Making decisions for the benefit of the community, even when unpopular, remains a fundamental responsibility. The next item is council committee and liaison reports. Are there any reports? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to staff and community reports. Does our town manager have a report?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I have a couple of updates for you this evening. First, the Age Friendly Task Force and Ross Recreation are hosting a Valentine's Luncheon on Thursday, February 15th at Magic. Please go to rossrecreation.org to register soon, as it will be sure to sell out. In light of tonight's short agenda, I want to take just a few minutes to start off the new year with a few positive comments. First, I noticed on this week's agenda for the RPOA meeting that was held just this past Monday, that there was a note on the agenda that the Ross Auxiliary adopted all 153 children in the North Bay Children's Center's Adopt a Family program. 153 children and their families. I find the auxiliaries work to support Ross families and 153 other families in the county of Marin to be really moving. Second, I'd like to recognize recent excellent performance by town staff in the area of obtaining grants. More specifically, I want to recognize our Public Works Director, Richard Simonich, who did the legwork over the past 2 years to bring home $178,000 in Prop 68 funds to the town. This funding was used for improvements to the Ross Common. This is the most recent example of his success in obtaining funds, but he also does this on an ongoing basis with our transportation projects. For example, he has been very successful in obtaining grant funds for the Laurel Grove Safe Pathway project. In addition to ongoing sources of funding from TAM, he obtained a $400,000 TAM Measure AA grant for the second phase of the project, and then most recently, a $75,000 grant from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, also called MTC, for planning the third phase of the project, which would take the pathway up to the town limits at Macon Grade. As the town's interim planning and building director last September, David Waltering did the legwork required to rescope the town's Senate Bill 2 grant agreement with the state of California so that it will fund a significant portion of the town's expenses related to the preparation of the sixth cycle housing element. And then when our new director, Roberta Feliciano, took over for David Woltering last October, she handled all the reporting necessary to make the deadline for that grant program, Senate Bill 2 grant. And we expect to receive a check for $160,000 any day now, any day. So applying for and competing for state grants is complex work, and that is an achievement to a grant to get it awarded. The town was awarded the Prop 68 and the SB2 grants 4 to 5 years ago. But then handling the onerous reporting and all the follow-up required to actually getting that money in our hands, in the bank rather, is an Olympic feat. So in addition to the 3 employees I just mentioned, I'd like to recognize the town council over those years, because in most of the cases you had to approve applying for the grants, you had to approve the grant agreements, of course you approve the expenditure of staffing resources to follow up and do the projects. I'd like to recognize the former town manager, Joe Chin, for his leadership and his role in applying for these grants. Several former planning directors, our current town clerk, Cindy Martell, and our consulting accountant, Elizabeth Ford, for their efforts to obtain the funding. So it's taken a lot of teamwork over these past 5 years or so to obtain the grant funds, and I think it's well worth the effort, as it has resulted in improvements to the quality of life here in Ross. So thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Next, is there a report from the Ross Property Owners Association? Cindy, is there anyone online?
I have no raised hands online.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda will take these two items together unless somebody wants to take it off or be heard. Does anybody want that on the council? And is there anybody in the audience or on Zoom that would like that?
No.
Okay, do we have a
I
motion?
move we approve the consent agenda.
Councilmember McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Mayor Breckus?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Cool?
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
Item 9 is non-existent, so we'll move on to 10. And with respect to 10, is there a statement that you wanted to make, Ben?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Item 10 is consideration of a zoning ordinance, and given mail that we recently received from the Branson School, its staff's request that the council open public comment and then continue the matter to a special meeting on January 24th at 4 p.m. for further consideration. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we open it up for public comment?
Riley H.
Yes, good evening. My name is Riley Hurd. I represent the Branson School in connection with land use matters. And just wanted to say a few words about the proposed ordinance. First is that the school remains very eager to partner with the town and provide much needed housing. Second, the ordinance, I think, is a really great start towards facilitating faculty housing. I think there are a couple tweaks. I think they're easy to implement. In fact, I think you could probably do them this evening, but they're just necessary to comply with state law, which has gotten very strict about the use of objective standards when reviewing housing projects. So just for the council's information, I thought it'd be helpful to read the definition of an objective development standard. It's as follows: a standard that involves no personal or subjective judgment by a public official or decision-making authority and are uniformly verifiable by reference to an external and uniform benchmark or criterion available and knowable by both the applicant or development proponent and the public official or decision maker prior to submittal of an application. So the idea was just to basically let developers know exactly what the rules were before something gets filed. So in tonight's ordinance, there's a couple examples of places that refer to a future master plan, which hasn't been developed yet. There's some standards that I've shared with your council that might need a little bit of tweaking to comply with that, about height, FAR, and colors and materials, where it's just a little too broad. And again, the goal is just to be sure that the objective criteria can be utilized, because if they're not objective, then they can't be used by the town. And I think you want standards that you can implement. So with those minor changes to the zoning ordinance and reconciling the intersection of the CUP that applies to school operations and not the housing, I think that this critical site can be guaranteed to produce the added housing. And I'm happy to collaborate with the council, staff, or anyone else on the few changes to the zoning ordinance to keep this thing moving along and move towards certification. And like I said, I did provide a list of these simple changes to your attorney today. Thank you.
There are no other raised hands online.
So I move that we continue this item until 4 o'clock on January 24th.
Councilmember McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Mayor Breckus? Mayor Pro Tem Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Cool?
Aye.
Oh, wait, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
And with that, we move on to, there's no item 11, so we're on to 12, which is a no action item. No action item. The first item is council correspondence. Has anybody received council correspondence? And the next is future council items. Does any member of the council want to discuss a future council item? Okay, now we're going to finish with open time for public expression. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to be heard? Is there anybody on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Great. With that, we're adjourned.
There must be something wrong. You got done so quick.